Welcome to Fridays with Father Geckle, a weekly show covering tradition, culture, and news on the Traditionalist Podcast. What a week we have had here in the United States of America. This has been, there's been so many news stories to talk about. Just a few days ago, I was kind of thinking of a list of things to talk about. And then by today, 2 days later, there's a whole new slew of things to talk about, news stories, new headlines. So I'm going to get into those in just a second here. But first of all, I want to say thank you for joining. I appreciate all of our viewers, everybody that tunes in, everybody that leaves a comment, everybody that leaves a like. It's something we really appreciate. We're trying to get this information out there. We're trying to give a traditional take on current events, and we hope it's helpful for people. We hope it sheds some light on things for people that, especially for people that are new to tradition or want to hear a traditional take that they're not going to get from Fox, they're not going to get from, good heavens, CNN or some other place like that. And, we're not professionals by any means, but we're trying to do the best we can to give good input, good commentary, etc. So if you would, leave a like, leave a comment, that would mean a lot to us. We're not doing this for money. This is not why we're doing that. But you can support us by leaving a comment, leaving a like, and, of course, praying for us, saying a little prayer for us. This is something that all the different hosts here, this isn't our job, this isn't our profession. We've got a lot of other things going on, be it, our parishes or mission work or catechism, or for the others, they have their families, they have their regular jobs. This is something we're trying to do in addition to all of the other duties and responsibilities we have going on. So if you'd say a prayer for us, we're hoping to help people, and we could use some help ourselves. So if you could pray for us, we would appreciate that. And with regard to the comments, just to give you a topic for comments today, if you were to give a name for this segment of the Traditionalist for my weekly show, what would that name be? I am somebody that is not very creative, not very imaginative. I don't have a creative bone in my body, I think. And so when it comes to titles or things like that, I am rubbish at it. Kevin dropped the name when the very first time we talked about me having a segment on this channel. He said, let's do, Fridays with Father Geckle. That has a nice ring to it. It's a mouthful. If anybody has a better idea for a name, why don't you leave that in a comment? I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, it's a mouthful. And if anybody has a better idea, I would love it. So leave a comment if you have an idea for a show, even if it's a joke. No problem. But anyway, this is going to be a show I'm doing solo. Typically, Kevin will be here kind of helping me out with the commentary and the context, etc. But he has had his family's been sick, and so it just hasn't worked out this week for him to join. It always makes it easier when he's here, and I always enjoy having him on and talking with him, but just didn't work out today. And that's something we're running into a lot with this show, is scheduling and trying to work this in with all the different people on different schedules. So it's been fun. This is something like I'm just recording the audio here because it's easier and quicker to upload. Most of the time we'll have visual too. I'm trying to get this in as quickly as I can before I head out for my weekend work out in the missions and my other mass center. So trying to get this produced quickly, so I'm leaving out the visual here. But anyway, let's cut to some of the news here. And obviously the top thing going on, of course, is everything having to do with the inauguration of President Trump and everything surrounding that, and many, many different things that have happened very quickly following that. And the first thing I want to say, the first key point that I want to comment on is how much I appreciate having a leader again. Having a leader in our government that we can point to and say, yep, this is our president. He's running things. He's not perfect. He needs our prayers. And we should pray that he has good people around him to help him make good decisions, because every single one of us is flawed, and some more than others. But that being said, it's really nice to have someone in the Oval Office as our president that can function and can be a leader, that I believe has natural qualities of a leader, as marred as he is, as egotistical as he can be or is. He is a leader. He gets things done. He has run businesses and things like that. He's a leader, and we have not had one. We have had a figurehead. We've had a puppet who I don't think was very intelligent to begin with, even back in the day when he had all of his wits about him in his youth. And you can see evidence of that in recordings and videos from the past 50 years. Biden was not a great light to our government amongst other politicians of his ilk. And the last 4 years, I mean, running for president, it was obvious he wasn't all there. Even when he was running for president back in 2020, whatever. So, and this is a story that there was an interview, I believe it was with Mike Johnson and Meet the Press, I think. There was a clip from that interview. I didn't watch the whole thing, but some people were commenting on this one clip where they bring up Joe Biden, where Speaker Mike Johnson was talking about how he was trying to get in there to see Biden to talk to him about some other things. And, he has a pretty high position. I think they said he's second in line to the presidency as the speaker, something like that. You can fact check me on that. Second or third in line. Can't remember. But he was telling this interviewer that for 8 weeks, he was trying to get an appointment with Biden. And they kept telling him, no, he doesn't have time. He doesn't have time. And then finally, he put some pressure on them to finally get Biden to see him. And when he went in there to talk to him, everybody were around. There were all these other people. It wasn't a one-on-one meeting. There were these other people around him that were basically guiding the conversation, directing him. And then he goes on to explain how then Biden said he wanted to talk to him alone, and Speaker Johnson brought up something about some deal with natural gas or whatever that was a horrible, dumb decision that was made that was not in the best interest of the United States by any means. And Biden was all confused, like, no, I didn't do that. I approved them to study something in natural gas, to look into some research or study into it. And Speaker Johnson made the comment that, it occurred to me that he wasn't lying. He legitimately didn't know what was being done. He didn't know what decision was being made. And, everybody around him was telling him, oh, it's this or oh, it's that. And Biden had no idea. People that don't have, their full mental capacity at an older age like that, they can be strung along by anybody, and if you have all of these other parties running things or running him anyway, it's a mess. We haven't had a leader. We haven't had a leader in 4 years. There have been leaders. There's been all of these other parties in the background propping Biden up, but we haven't had a leader. And that's something I'm really glad to have. Doesn't mean that I am going to agree or approve of everything or even half of what Trump does or says. We take it case by case, but he is a leader. He is someone that can actually have a conversation with the media, and take questions and make answers off the cuff. Even though he can get super wordy and can be so annoying sometimes with the way his bluster. But there's also a realness about him that I prefer, with all its rough edges. I prefer that more than the scripted, politically correct nonsense that we've had to listen to for the last 4 years from I guess you can call them the leaders that we've had for the last 4 years, but that's kind of a stretch. But anyway, let me wrap this point up. That's one of the things that I very much am happy to see again in the United States, is to have a leader. Flawed, yes. Imperfect, yes. Liable to make mistakes, absolutely. But he actually has his wits about him, and much more competent than the previous administration. And I think we'll be making a lot of good decisions for our country, a lot more good ones, and I think redressing a lot of the harm done in the past couple of years. So we'll see where it goes. Again, got to remind everybody, we got to pray for our leaders. not just Trump, but all of our leaders. Pray for our country. If nothing else, we can do that, and that's something we all have to do. But one of the very good things I'm just so happy to see is the push, the decisions, the executive orders follow through on getting rid of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI, at least I hope, DEI is dead. I hope it's dead because it's so frustrating to me. It's, well, to everyone. And I'm not even in the regular workforce. Obviously, I'm a Catholic priest. I'm not dealing with your typical workplace decisions or bosses or quotas or whatever that other people are dealing with. But I've heard a lot of stories, both from people I know personally and from people that are online talking about this, that it is just, it's unconstitutional. It's discriminatory, and it takes away positions and authority and jobs and whatever from people that deserve it, that have merited it, that have earned it, and gives it to people for what? Skin color or gender identity, some delusion that they might have about themselves. And yeah, it's so un-American. It's so un-American, and it's so harmful. And I'm so glad to see that action is being taken here. This goes back to the point about leadership. There's actually a direction, a purpose. When you have a leader that has a direction, a purpose, to say, okay, this is the direction we're going. The previous administration, the direction was tear down what was before, tear down America. And I think it's the direction that they wanted to take it was tear down America, weaken America, so that we can move towards this global one world, whatever, the globalist agenda. I don't think that Trump has any desire for that. In fact, I think he's very, very critical of that idea. So the purpose is make America strong, protect our citizens, take care of our people, do what's right by America, the United States. It's not isolationist, but I'm more a fan of that than I am of the opposite extreme of that. But it's putting America first. And the good of this country, the good of any institution, whether it's the coffee shop down the road or the Walmart or judges or universities, FBI, firemen, a big example that we've had brought to the fore with the wildfires in California. The interests of the people that are affected in that institution or by the services rendered by that institution is not served by DEI by any means. And so I'm so glad to see this movement away from that and actually legislation or executive orders against this nonsensical, harmful, disastrous policy of giving these positions of hiring, etc., just based on somebody's skin color or race or gender or whatever else. So that's something I'm really happy to see some action being taken there. And another obvious and really big one that I'm glad to see a very quick action being taken, because it's the illegal immigrant situation in our country. The millions and millions of illegal immigrants that have poured over the border since the beginning of Biden's term, including the violent criminals that are caught and then let go. It's like, American citizens are prosecuted, are put in jail if they commit some crime. But if they're an immigrant, they're here illegally, well, then apparently that excuses them. And because they're immigrants and criminals, being an immigrant, I guess, takes precedent. And so a lot of them that aren't even prosecuted or put in jail in these sanctuary cities. It makes no sense. It's so harmful. Again, goes back to that, what I was saying earlier, that this is, how can it not be that the purpose of these policies of the Biden administration was to destroy this country, was to weaken this country, to cause so many problems that they force some new order, some new direction. I don't see how it can't be that. How can it not be that? The DEI stuff, the unchecked immigration just pouring in over the border. Anybody, terrorists, I mean, legit people that want to come in and destroy this country and set off bombs and do stuff like that. I mean, there are those people. There's a lot of them. They knew that these people were coming in and they just opened the door. It makes no sense. And if you take it to an analogy, it's like, everybody's familiar with this. If you live in a city surrounded by a bunch of people and you don't lock your doors and you leave the door open and you say, okay, anybody wants to come in? I'm not going to stop you because we need to be accepting. Well, you're not going to have anything left in your home. There are crazies out there. There are criminals out there, and there are crazies out there, and there are people that are selfish. They want to cause you harm. You won't have anything left for yourself, for your family. Your family will be at risk. It makes no sense to leave the door unlocked, let alone leave the door open when you're surrounded by just everyone. So the same common sense needs to apply as it to our country, as it would to, in this sense, to your home. You lock the doors. You don't let somebody in that wants to destroy you, your family, or your home. It would be nonsensical. And that's something that Trump said that he wanted to do, is restore common sense. And this is just a common sense thing. You can't have unchecked immigration. You can't have it. It makes no sense. So I'm glad to see that there is direction taken on that. And, some individuals will say, oh, we have to be kind, we have to be welcoming, we have to be charitable, we have to show, love and kindness to these people. It's like, well, charity starts at home. Charity starts at home. And there's no commandment that says that you have to allow unchecked immigration and all these other things. And yeah, if it's harmful to our country, our first responsibility here is to our country, and to those closest to home. So it's misguided when people try to make that argument. But anyway, let me move on to the next point that I wanted to make. I think there are a lot of people that are really happy to see that Trump actually kept his word with regard to the pardons, with regard to the J6. I think he called them hostages, and I think rightly called that. He kept his word on issuing the pardons, and about 1,500 of them were released, and that's a good thing to see. They had just the weaponization of the justice system here against these people, that it's so frustrating to see the hypocrisy of the left in this regard. The BLM riots that destroyed so many businesses and property and ended up in many people's deaths as a result of the mayhem. These people, nothing. No repercussions. Nothing. But these people that walked into the Capitol on January 6th, they're labeled as criminals. They've been in prison for years, treated very badly. Some of the accounts that you hear of how they were treated in prison was, well, man, it's pretty ugly, pretty nasty. So yeah, the hypocrisy of the left in this regard is just so frustrating. It's so disgusting. So I'm really glad to see that Trump followed through right away in pardoning these people that were treated so unfairly, as well as some of this just came out today, I believe, on Thursday, the anti-abortion protesters that were put in prison for praying outside of abortion clinics. They were attacked by the legal system, by the justice system, I should say, for this. When I was a kid, we would do this. My family, we did this a number of times with some of our parishioners and our parish there in Ohio. We would go to Mansfield, Ohio, and we would stand outside Planned Parenthood there, and we would pray the rosary some Saturday mornings. And, that's all we did. We just stood outside. Sometimes it was cold. Sometimes it was nice. I always remember the times that it was really cold. We were standing out there praying the rosary. And that's all we did. You just stand there and you pray. You try to make reparation. You pray for those people you pray for an end of abortion, etc. And people that were doing this were locked up, were prosecuted for standing outside of a Planned Parenthood and praying. And these people were targeted by the left. For all of the talk of, Trump being a dictator and the far-right extremists and how they want to be tyrants and whatever. You see people that are always screaming about this, complaining about it, saying how frightened they are that the right is going to do that. You see them being the tyrants. You see them putting people in prison for praying publicly, standing outside a building, walking around the grounds of the Capitol or whatever. It's such hypocrisy. It's so pathetic. It's so disgusting. So to see that Trump followed through, didn't mess around, he just got right to it, pardoned these people, I'm really happy to see that. It's really great to see. Glad he's keeping his word on this. And that seems to be a very consistent thing that Trump has been doing over the last couple of days. He's keeping his word about the things that he said he's going to do so far. Seems like he's following through really well on some, I think, some very, very important issues. And the pardons is one these were politicized events. That's why they were treated like this. It was to teach people a lesson. And that is not what the justice system is for. The justice system is for justice. And these were blatant cases of injustice. So glad to see Trump using his executive power to do this. And it's really funny to see the contrast between these pardons of Trump and the pardons that Biden did on his way out. Now, I haven't looked a lot into it, but I've heard that some of the pardons that Trump did in his last term were kind of silly or strange or didn't make any sense. Okay. All right. That may be true. Like I said, I haven't looked into that. But these are the ones I'm talking about, the J6ers and the anti-abortion protesters. Compare these clear cases of injustice being done to these people, to Fauci and these others, Biden's family, giving pardons for these people. It's really interesting. I mean, why did they need to pardon Fauci? I thought he was a good guy. I thought he was, he cared so much. He saved so many lives. Why do you got to pardon Fauci? Well, I mean, we know, I'm sure everybody listening to this already knows, but it's a clear admission of guilt. What does he need to be pardoned if there isn't clear evidence that he's a criminal, that he's broken the law? We know at least that he perjured himself. That's pretty darn clear from the Senate hearings. I think it was that he went before and perjured himself for the Senate. But it gets into all of the COVID stuff, whatever. But the pardons of Biden, his family, to me, that seems a pretty darn clear admission to everyone that, yeah, there was corruption there. And yes, there is proof of it. And so on their way out, I'm going to pardon myself. I'm going to pardon my family. I'm going to pardon these people that were my cronies. I don't know. It's really interesting contrasting that. Just in these last couple days, Biden pardoning these people on his way out, and then the next couple days, Trump giving some good pardons, some ones that are legitimate, needed, and necessary. So it's interesting. It's interesting comparing the two, just in this area in the last couple days. So I think some good news. I can't imagine how happy those families are of those people that had their family members so horribly and unjustly treated. They've got to be so grateful. I can imagine, put yourself in their shoes. If you had family members, husband or a wife or children or whatever, that have been in prison for the last 4 years for walking around the Capitol building or just on the grass. 1,500 of these people. If I was in their shoes, if I was in their family's shoes, man, this would be such a big issue. So just for this one issue alone, I'm really, really glad to see Trump following through. So anyway, on to the next point, on to the next topic I want to bring up. Something that man, the whole thing about AI and the, what is it, $500 billion project that they're doing there. I'm sorry, I don't have all of the facts right in front of me here. I'm trying to do a lot of this from memory. But the huge, huge plan for the AI, what is it? They got to, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. If you've been following the news, you know what I'm talking about. And I really, really not liking what I see with the mRNA stuff. That to me, that is just, I listened to a short clip of Dr. Malone, I believe that was his name, talking about this today, responding to that press conference with talking about the AI, mRNA stuff and how that's going to be such a great thing. And he was saying, Dr. Malone was saying, they don't know what they're either lying or they don't know what they're talking about and he was calling it out as a very, very bad thing. Just my gut reaction and common sense says that is no good. And then hearing Dr. Malone saying it, yeah, that confirmed it for sure. I really don't like this at all. And, this is something that I think Trump gets rightly criticized for is big, how favorable he was or how much he pushed the COVID vaccines. And, I'm getting off track here a little bit, but I want to bring this up. I want to bring this up because I think we got to separate some things here. Obviously I've said it so many times before, so, I'm not a fan of everything Trump does by any means. And I'm not a fan of the vaccine stuff at all. And especially the COVID thing, how they push that. And people don't trust Trump because of it or don't like Trump because of it. And yes, fair. I don't either. But my perspective on that is Trump, he's a businessman. He's a business guy. He makes deals. He does this stuff. And he's going to listen to other people when he's talking about health, when he's talking about vaccines or cancer, things like that. He's going to listen to his advisors. And I don't think he has good advisors on this. I mean, I think RFK is good from what I understand on these issues. Not social issues, probably so much. But from what I've seen, he's pretty glad to see a lot of the things that RFK is saying. But I think Trump is following the quote-unquote experts. And I think he's being misled on this. I don't think he knows much about it. Maybe. I could be wrong. But, and it's hard to know. It's hard to know anything. Some people are convinced that Trump is the devil. Some people are convinced that Trump is the white knight that's going to save the world. Then both of those views, I think, are nonsensical. But we can't really know a whole lot for sure with regard to motivations and what they're really trying to do here. But, I think Trump trusts some people that shouldn't be trusted. I think he gets advice from people that he shouldn't be getting advice from. Trump likes to eat McDonald's, Big Macs and Diet Coke, or maybe not Diet Coke, maybe regular Coke, whatever. I don't think he's too much into all of the health stuff or whatever. And I think a lot of, I wish he had that Dr. Malone advising him on these things. Yeah, I do not like Trump's take on the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, absolutely. And I think he's gotten a lot of flack for that, even from his base, even from his supporters. And with this too, I think it's too soon after COVID for people that have woken up to fall for this mRNA thing. I don't think they're interested. The vast majority. I don't think the vast majority of people that have learned about the harmful effects of the COVID vaccine and the mRNA stuff, I don't think that they're going to go for the same thing on steroids with AI and having the monitoring and the security state and constant. I don't see that taking off. I really don't. Not yet anyway. I think there's a lot of flack. I've been seeing a lot of flack for it. I don't think it's a good thing. And I think a lot of people agree. I'm not so that's kind of my leading thoughts on that about, Trump and the vaccines. I think he's wrong on it. I think he's wrong for pushing it, promoting it. But I think it's mainly the people around him advising him. That's my thought. I could be totally wrong, totally off on that, but that's what I think on it. But this AI stuff, in general, the AI stuff I think it's technology. It's a development of technology. I don't think it's good and I don't think it's evil. I think it's indifferent. I think it can be put to good uses and it can be put to bad uses. And it's there. The technology is there. There's no stopping it. It's not going to just, not once it's out of the can, it's not going back in. It's like the internet. The internet is something that is now a part of pretty much everybody's life, for better or worse, a lot for worse. But there's also a lot of good that's come out of it. But it's a technology. It's a development of technology. And it's going to be developed. It's going to be developed. It's going to be used. Good people are going to use it for good things. Bad people are going to use it for bad things. And it is what it is. It's out there, and there's great good that's come out of it. With AI, I think it's the same thing. There's good that's going to be brought out of it for businesses and other things, other applications. Like for myself, when we're doing these just like editing videos and editing audio and stuff, I can use an AI feature on the software I have to go through and edit these videos or these recordings, and it helps a lot. It saves a lot of time. That's not evil. That's not me joining in with some evil force, whatever. It's just something that it's a technology that we can use. You know, this controversy about AI, and this is something Kevin, I know, I disagree with him on this. He really doesn't like AI. He really thinks it's going to be a major problem, and maybe so. Very much like you could say that the internet has been the ruin of many people in our age. Yeah, you could make that argument, make that point, but you could also say that it's the people misusing it that is the problem and not the thing itself. But I digress. Kevin, I know, is not a big fan. Maybe next time he's on, we can talk about it more, get his perspective on it. Should be interesting. But it makes me think of something I read about Pope Pius IX in the 1800s. When he came into office, he was looked upon as a liberal. He was more for development, development and the modern, the world. The development of technology and other things at the time. I could be wrong. I'm kind of mixing up the story, but there was a pope that thought that the railroad was like an evil thing. Like this metal machine, this stuff is bad, and so they wouldn't allow it. It wouldn't allow or wouldn't give their approval of this being used, at least by these individuals, and it was like seen as something bad. We're developing this technology. It's getting out of hand. It's going to be used for bad things. It's going to destroy this or that, and it's a bad thing. And that's what they thought. That's what some people thought. It's not like it was church teaching or anything like that. But it's something that I read about. I forget which pope it was that looked upon this as being not a good thing, as being a bad thing. But that was his own private, personal opinion, not on matters of faith and morals. So no problem. But this is. A long time ago, but it was a new technology, and it's not good, it's not bad, it's indifferent. It can be used for good things, it can be used for bad things, and that's kind of how the way I think of it with AI. I think it is what it is, and it can be used for good, it can be used for bad. And as far as this humongous investment of Trump, what some people are saying, what that one fellow was saying about it, everybody's going to behave better because they're going to have constant watching. That awful. That's horrible. We need to fight against that. And I think the majority of people know that is not good. That's an 80-year-old guy talking about his dream, his utopia. It's a police state. No, we need to fight against that. That is something that is awful. And shudder to think about the society like that. But as far as Trump making this decision and this big buildup, I don't know what exactly it's all going to be used for. I already talked about the mRNA AI vaccines. I think that is a horrible idea. Police state or observation state, security state, whatever they call it. That is a horrible idea. But here's a point in favor of investing in this AI technology here in the U.S. The point for it that I see is China and other foreign powers are not going to be holding back their development of these things. And this is a technology. And if you have a communist foreign nation investing big time into developing AI and using it for their purposes, for whatever direction and goals that they have, we will be at a serious disadvantage if we don't develop it ourselves and use it for the good of our nation, for the good of our people, for the defense of our nation and our people. So I think it's a must. It's where we are. I mean, like, imagine 20 years ago if the U.S. said, we're not going to use internet. We're not going to develop internet. We're not going to develop computers because it's going to be a bad thing for our society. It's going to be a bad thing for our people. Well, you could argue that we'd be in a better place, but we would be behind the rest of the world and at a serious disadvantage, and there'd be a serious threat to our nation for not developing that technology. It just doesn't make sense to say, oh, stop using AI, don't use it, don't develop it, when everybody else is going to. So it needs oversight. It needs to be watched out for. We need to have people on the lookout, and protections or safeguards in place to make sure that it isn't developed for nefarious purposes, or I should say put to nefarious purposes by these institutions. So there needs to be oversight, there needs to be checks and balances, etc. But it's here. Technology is here, and I think the U.S. needs to develop it, and the U.S. needs to be a powerhouse with its proper use, because if we don't, our country's going to be at a serious disadvantage. It's going to be a serious threat. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Like I said, there's so many different stories to get into this week. I'm going to try to wrap this up here shortly. I don't want to make this an hour-long clip. And if anybody's stuck around for this long, hey, kudos to you. I'm surprised. I'm surprised if anybody can stand to listen for this long. But if you do enjoy it, please let me know. I appreciate any feedback, positive or negative. If you want to say you don't like it and I should stop doing this or keep it shorter and not run on constantly, hey, I'll take it. I don't mind people being blunt with me here. Okay, I'm just going to bring up two more stories very briefly. The first one was Trump standing up, or I should say Trump tuning into the UEF, the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, Switzerland. And if you haven't seen any of the clips of his speaking there, if you haven't, some of them are really worth listening to, I think, because it's kind of like, it reminded me of Trump's inauguration speech, where he is talking about how bad the past administration was, how destructive it was and harmful it was, right in front of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and these others that despise him, that hate him, that did everything they could to end him. And Trump saying what he said in front of them was satisfying. I mean, it was satisfying. I enjoyed it. Seeing him tune into the World Economic Forum and give this address to them, basically saying, if I were to summarize it, hey, we've had a past administration that was pathetic, that has harmed our country, that put the interests of our people and our country last, and I'm not doing that anymore. This past administration, these people were on your team, World Economic Forum team, globalist team, and I am not on that team. We are going a different direction. So this is what we're going to do. And I don't care what you say. We're not listening to what you guys have to say, because we're going to put the interests of our people first, our country first. And we're not going to buy into this nonsensical World Economic Forum 2030 stuff, new world order nonsense. We're not going along with that. That's the message that I got from Trump's address there, and it was great to hear. This is where the people that say that Trump is part of that whole thing, and controlled by Israel, or he's a controlled opposition or something like that. That could be true. I could be totally wrong in my analysis of it. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't be the first 1,000th time that I was wrong. But to me, the thing that really makes me be supportive of a lot of what Trump does and hopeful for the future for our country is that he is not a fan of the globalist agenda. He does not go along with it. He wants America to be strong. I think he wants the people to do well in America. And he doesn't like this. He doesn't like this globalist stuff. He's not a fan. And they don't like him. The globalists, they don't like him. So to me, that's like one of the biggest things, to my mind. That's like one of the biggest things in favor of the direction Trump wants to go, in favor of Trump, and in favor of being hopeful that he isn't a part of that whole agenda leading to that, one world order, one world religion, and all of that other stuff. Again, I could be wrong. It could all be a double, triple, quadruple cross or something like that. Could be. If it is, it is. And we'll have to deal with it if it comes, or when it comes. I should say when it comes. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe in 10 years, we'll be living in pods and eating the bugs, and we'll have this new world order. Maybe. Maybe it'll be 100 years. Maybe it'll be 500 years. I have no idea. It was refreshing to see. I was glad to see Trump address them that way, and just reinforce what he said over and over again, that he's interested in putting America first. So I'm going to finish with one last story. This is something my sister sent. I'm a native of the great state of Ohio. At least it was great at one time. I don't know. I haven't lived there for many years, but I'm a Buckeye. I'm an Ohioan. And my sister sent this story to me, or she posted it on Facebook anyway. It's titled, "Buckeyes Bring Faith to Championship Game." It's from the Catholic Times of Columbus. And this is not something I follow normally, but, the headline was nice. And basically what it's saying is that some of the Buckeyes, before the national championship game against Notre Dame, who lost, too bad. I'm sorry, all you Notre Dame fans. I used to be a big Notre Dame fan too, but, well, my allegiance has kind of shifted a little bit. Definitely more of a Buckeye fan. Not something I've followed a whole lot lately, but I'm going to root for the home team for sure. Anyway, so the night before the Buckeyes beat Notre Dame in the national championship, and I'm going to keep rubbing that in, some of them, this headline talks about them getting together to do what? Guess. They got together to pray the rosary the night before the game. And this is something that they usually do before they go to bed, they say. It's one of the guys. Let's see who. Let me look a little bit more closely here. It says they're two of the seniors, John Frohlman and Colin Johnson. Says they're both practicing Catholics. Who will likely be joined by a few teammates as they pray their way through the decades of the rosary at the end of the day. Spent making preparations for the biggest game of their lives. And it's a nice little article, and it's something that Dan Davis has brought up a couple times about how much more there is a spotlight on Christ, on prayer, on giving some glory to God amongst on the sports fields, whether it's football or baseball or whatever. And this is another great example of this. It's nice to see this coming more to the forefront. There's more spotlight, more attention being brought to this. So people actually talking about their faith, talking about Christ or the rosary, and saying how it's a big deal. And they don't care if people don't like it. They're going to say it anyway. And this is a quote from Johnson, one of the players here. He said, "I think it has to do with people just being more comfortable with who they are in their faith and not being afraid or ashamed of what they believe in and the God they believe in. I think a lot of guys have accepted the fact that I am a man of God. I'm going to follow what he's teaching, and if somebody wants to judge me for that, then so be it. But I know who I am." And it goes on to talk a little bit more about this. And I just thought it was a neat headline, and I have to fight back on this channel. I have to fight back a little bit against the Colorado bias, okay? If you've been listening to the content, you know it's there. You've got Eric, the caveman, Mr. Kosovich over there. I don't know what this guy is doing. There's no consultation about what topics we're going to talk about. But, his heading last week, I just got to mention it. I just got to mention it, Eric. You're attacking Ohio, bringing up that there's Satanists in Ohio and what they're doing in schools. I'm sure they're doing that in Colorado just as much. Okay, Eric? So, if you want to keep picking on Ohio, I'm sure I can keep dredging up a bunch of dirt, a bunch of stories about Colorado too. So I'm just going to throw that mud back at you just a little bit, Eric, because, I'm outnumbered on this channel. So listeners, all of you listeners here, give a thumbs up for Ohio. No thumbs down. If you do a thumbs down for Colorado, but do a thumbs up for Ohio here, because, I'm a minority here. There's only one Ohioan on the traditionalist team, and there's a bunch of Coloradans. So, we need a little Buckeye support here. if we've got anybody in the viewers here. So, Eric, respect you very much, but I have a feeling we're going to see this theme again and again. You attacking Ohio, me defending it, and we'll see where it goes. Anyway, everybody, if you've listened this long, God bless you. It shows that you have a greater deal of patience than me. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the channel by being a viewer or a listener. Commenting, liking the videos, sharing it would be great if you think it's worth sharing. And even if you didn't like really what I had to say, or you found it to be annoying, I wouldn't blame you for saying so. But if you like what we're trying to do here, please leave a comment, leave a like, share it, leave some constructive criticism. If you didn't like the approach, the way that I did this one today, kind of a trial. I've never done this before, just talking like this. Sure, gosh, almost an hour now. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know. If we think we should just not even put the time into this kind of format, no problem. Let me know. But anyway, stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more stuff coming up on this channel. We're going to have more live streams. We're going to have more interviews. I've got a couple people myself that I want to interview. I think we will have a live stream with at least a couple of the different hosts here in a couple days. We'll have to see how that works in with the schedule. Yeah, stay tuned to the channel. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. That way you can be sure to not miss any of the content coming up. Kevin says, and Eric have said that it helps to hit the bell for notifications and stuff too. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks a lot for joining. Say a prayer for all of us that are involved in this venture with the traditionalists. I think it's a good work. I think it's something that hopefully we can help some people and hopefully provide some good content. Say a prayer for us. Leave a like, leave a comment. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for our future content. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you.